Good day, welcome to your main newscast for Monday, January 24th, 2022. I'm Kevin Smith.
And I'm Amrita Koshal.
In your headlines today, U.S. eager to help Guyana with oil spill plan, but silent on absence of full coverage insurance from oil companies. Christopher Ram says court challenge to tax-free ride in Exxon deal could level playing field for Guyanese, and $350 million estimated to fix Hubu deteriorating road. AFC says don't waste oil money on projects that provide kickbacks for the PPP boys, and woman doused with corrosive substance on Norton Street. Opposition submits no confidence motion against House Speaker, and 4 die from COVID-19 as new cases surge.
Nothing in life is free, but
And now for the news in detail. The U.S. Embassy here recently announced that the U.S. Coast Guard and the Guyana CDC commenced a 6-month series of joint activities. This is designed to assist Guyana in the development of a reliable national response system for oil spills, while enhancing the CDC's maritime oil spill prevention, planning and response capabilities. While the U.S. Embassy is eager to help Guyana with a plan for response to an oil spill, as well as the enhancement of skills and capabilities to clean up after one, it has been noticeably silent on the need for full coverage insurance from the parent companies of the subsidiaries operating in Guyana's basin. Since 2015, ExxonMobil has steered clear of being tied to full coverage insurance for its Stabroek Block projects, which are certain to deliver multi-billion-dollar profits on an annual basis. Instead, it has placed only its subsidiary, ESSO, on the hook if such an eventuality occurs offshore. This is the state of affairs with its Liza Phase 1, Liza Phase 2, and Payara projects.
Moving on, the recent legal challenge filed by Kaieteur News publisher Glenn Lal via his lawyer Mr. Muhammad Ali against the extraordinary tax-free ride given to the affiliated companies and subcontractors of ExxonMobil, Hess Corporation and CNOOC Limited, as noted in the Stabroek Block PSA, could, if successful, level the playing field for locals that struggle to compete in the industry. This is the viewpoint of Chartered Accountant and Attorney at Law Christopher Ram. Ram said the case by Lal is significant since it would essentially retain more revenues for the country while giving locals a fighting chance in the industry. Also, expatriate employees of the oil companies, their affiliated companies, and of non-resident subcontractors who are physically present in Guyana for 183 days or less in any tax year, whose income is now exempt from tax, will become taxable.
And moving on, the Hubu Main Access Road, which is located in Region 3, will soon be fixed after being in a deplorable condition for some time. In an invitation for bids, the Ministry of Public Works is inviting contractors to execute rehabilitation works on the road. According to the ministry's engineer, the rehabilitation work is expected to cost some $350 million. The present state of the road was recently highlighted by a resident who wrote a letter to Kaieteur News earlier in the month calling for the president to intervene in addressing the issue. Robin Salim, the resident, noted in his letter that the main road from Parika Junction leading all the way to St. Lawrence, East Bank Essequibo, is in a deplorable state for some time now. Last year, some sectional repairs were done on that long stretch of road, but due to heavy vehicles and machinery which would traverse the roadway, it would have deteriorated.
And we now tell you that the AFC has warned the government not to throw oil money behind projects that will provide kickbacks for its friends and cronies, but rather immediately abolish fees at the University of Guyana to help struggling students. Since returning to office, the PPP has revived the Amila Falls project, is pursuing a gas-to-shore project, has spoken about deep water ports, among other projects. Observers believe that the way most of these projects are structured provides breeding grounds for corruption and will benefit only the close associates of the Irfan Ali administration. In its statement, the AFC said, as an oil-producing nation, priority spending must be on education. The party noted that for this year alone, oil production should reach some 340,000 barrels of oil per day. This will result in significant earnings for the country and must not be squandered away on projects that only provide kickbacks for the boys.
And moving on, a 24-year-old woman was doused with a corrosive substance by two other women during a confrontation at the corner of Norton and John Streets, Georgetown last Friday night. Police said ranks in Regional Division 4A are looking for 4 identifiable females who allegedly carried out the attack on January 21st, around 20 hours 40. According to the police report, 24-year-old Renisha Maxwell of West Rhymeville, Georgetown, took a taxi from Leopold Street, and as she was traveling, she observed a car following her cab. She told the driver to stop, and when he did, she alleged that the 4 females exited the trailing car and approached her. One of the females then threw a liquid substance on her, and she immediately felt a burning sensation about her body and began to scream. She was rushed to the Georgetown Public Hospital, where she was admitted with burns to her back and left hand. Her condition is now regarded as stable, and the police are currently investigating the incident.
And now time for your COVID-19 update. The Ministry of Health on Sunday reported that 4 more persons who contracted COVID-19 have died. As a result of this, the country's COVID-19 death toll has moved to 1,134. Meanwhile, 642 new infections were recorded in just 24 hours, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 57,227. 19 patients are admitted into the COVID-19 ICU, 175 persons in institutional isolation, 13,580 in home isolation, and 14 in institutional quarantine. To date, a total of 42,319 persons have recovered from the virus.
The time has now moved on to 12 hours 10 in Guyana. We will return with more news after the break.
This is GHK Lal inviting you
And now back with more news in detail. The APNU-AFC opposition said it has submitted a motion of no confidence against the Speaker of the National Assembly, Mansour Nadir, and also one for government MPs to be sanctioned. The motions were filed following news that opposition MPs who tried to disrupt the last sitting of the House will be sanctioned. According to the opposition, the members of the parliamentary opposition from the APNU-AFC determined on December 29, 2021, that they were the last line of defense against an authoritarian regime who were salivating about the idea of having complete control of the revenue from our oil resources that is the patrimony of all Guyanese. It said after witnessing the decision by the Speaker not to allow a petition by Guyanese citizens requesting that the consideration of the Natural Resource Fund Bill be paused to allow for greater consultation.
And in other news, the government of Guyana is banking on the recently passed local content law to recover losses from the lopsided PSA, which Guyana signed onto with ExxonMobil. This is according to Guyana's Vice President Bharat Jagdeo. Jagdeo has repeatedly bashed the APNU-AFC administration regime for the poorly renegotiated Stabroek Block PSA. He has even been quoted in the media saying that the agreement, which was signed with Esso, Hess Corporation, and Sinop Petroleum Limited, is a contract that would harm us for decades into the future, and even accused the APNU-AFC of having sold our patrimony to Exxon. But Jagdeo and his government have resisted calls to renegotiate the contract. In fact, only recently he declared that his government's policy is to keep the contract the way it is.
Still on Vice President Bharat Jagdeo, he last week evaded questions on whether his government will negotiate with the trade unions before awarding pay increases. Last year, the government was ridiculed for offering public servants a meager 7% without meeting with the workers' representatives. With the Natural Resource Fund Act already in play, the PPP government has given itself the green light to touch the revenues garnered from oil and gas, as was anticipated by the political opposition. In fact, Jagdeo has already signaled that the oil money will indeed be included in this year's budget, which is to be presented in the National Assembly on Wednesday. But even though the PNCR leader, Aubrey Norton, has made recommendations to the government for Budget 2022, Jagdeo has labeled the party's requests as laughable when it comes to the reduction in taxes.
And to wrap things up, let's tell you that 7 months after escaping from the Lusignan prison, murder convict Shazam Khalil was on Saturday evening recaptured in Blairmont, Berbice. According to reports, ranks acting on information received went to a house at number 2 Blairmont squatting area around 22 hours 30, where Khalil was recaptured. He will now be charged with escaping from lawful custody. Khalil and another inmate, Andrew Chong, had escaped from the Lusignan prison on June 8 last year. At the time of his escape, Khalil was serving a life sentence with the possibility of parole only after 24 years. Khalil, who previously worked as a cane harvester, was sentenced to life imprisonment back in 2016 by Justice Joanne Barlow. He was found guilty of stabbing 19-year-old Shazina Mohammed, his ex-girlfriend, to death in 2015. With the time now moving on to 12 hours 14, we now wrap things up with the page 7 of the Kaieteur News. An enemy is one who is actively opposed or hostile to someone or something. Moreover, those who are opposed to Guyana having a fair deal with ExxonMobil are enemies of this nation and therefore should not be trusted. We at Kaieteur Radio and Kaieteur News are happy to see that more and more people are coming out as they take a stand against the theft of this nation's patrimony. And with that, we've come to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith.
And I'm Amrita Koshal.
Thank you for listening.